back in the count. The swing arm now coming back as our countdown continues.
Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon if you're on the West Coast like me. It's Brick Something, and you're here at the Brick Something N.E.W.S, which is a silly acronym for the needless ephemera we saw, because sometimes it's news, sometimes it's just random nerdy stuff that I want to talk about with other people. This week, like the last couple of weeks, actually, I had sort of a focused feature, and today I wanted to invite the Häxan House, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. They're nodding. So
Yeah.
The Häxan House fellas to talk, both John and Anthony, who are here, and I actually met them very briefly before this, and so this is going to be like our first time talking, which is kind of rad. So hello and welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thank you for having us.
I love the background. See, it's always fun to sort of see how people present their stuff and how it always like kind of reflects. Like that little, I see the little mask up there and that. Anyways, so welcome to the show. You guys are here. I don't know if you were able to catch any of it, but I first saw your stuff and showed it here. There were just a couple like Instagram posts, and I was like, "What is this?" And I just sort of shared it on one of the episodes where we're just me and a buddy talking about random things, and like, "Look at this! This is amazing. Where is this? Like, what's the story?" And so, I kind of reached out and I saw a little bit more of your posts. I saw that you're starting to go out there and kind of show your wares, if you will, it shows.
Yeah, it's real important for us to do that.
Yeah.
At this point, you have nothing to sell right now, so getting out there and saying hi to everyone is really key for us.
Yeah. So it'll be really great to kind of just get to know you, hear about the line and everything you got planned and where things are going. First, I would be remiss if I didn't say hello to the folks who are here, ready to kind of hear from you all. So let's go and say hello to them. Hey, Brian Carr is here. Happy Sunday, gang. Blake, aka Recon Rage, what's going on, man? And so far, both of them have said happy Sunday. We'll talk about this. I was raised in a pretty Catholic family. So like Sundays were this day of like, this is the time for church and all those kinds of things. I've since not so much into it, but it's funny, right? The first two are like happy Sunday, and I'm getting that cognitive dissonance. Thanos is here. What's going on? Josh Brown. They like to tease me because I'm a teacher by trade. See, look, everybody's doing it. What's up, Gabrielle? Happy Sunday. Trey, the Geek Dad. Yo, what's going on? Okay, so now like I just feel like they all planned it. What's up, Kenny? Happy Sunday. Oh, yes. I probably enjoy sports less than church, possibly. Anyways, Larry's Geeky World, what's going on? Hello. This is a new name. Hello, welcome. Aloha. SCS Dog. Any relation to Nate and Snoop? Jurassic Jesse is here. Oh, heck yes. Let's go. Ray Black is here just in time. Excellent. I always wondered if you guys are like hanging out at the same place or watching separately. What's going on, Nolan? Good to see you. Vaz, Tiffany, Adrian, Guinness. Hello. Let's see. And I think that's it for the folks, maybe. I was like, scroll. Oh, no, just kidding. Mr. Ryan Clark, hello. Hey, I'm so glad that you were able to catch the stream. It's good. Been running into him in other chats. Repas, what's going on? Hello, sir. And Andrew Gady's Toys. Ahoy, hoy. And of course, Solo Sinner. What's up? See, again, there's themes. Yeah, there's themes. Okay, so I'm teasing. I have shared when I've been talking about your guys' stuff that these are the toy lines that absolutely, this is the toy line that my parents, my mother, my father would probably be like, what in the hell? But not so much. They weren't exactly super strict about stuff growing up in terms of pop culture. But this is definitely a unique brand, I think, because some of what you're drawing on inspiration wise, I think were some of the things that like would resonate with them in particular, right? It's not so much like modern stuff. You go back.
Yeah, we're going back. Yeah.
Mhm.
Can you tell us first?
I would
go for
say
it.
you're pretty much the only one so far has pretty much nailed where we're coming from with our idea. I guess it's the old paintings, those old wood carved illustrations,
Yeah,
and that's pretty much where we're getting our inspiration from. So
I love
you nailed
that.
it. You nailed it
Yay.
a couple episodes
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
And all
I'm a
that,
nerd on multiple levels, just so you know. Whether it's yeah. So part of me actually is kind of has had different moments where I've just really explored paranormal, occult, all of that stuff, as well as just like the pop culture of it, whether it's music,
Mhm.
metal,
Mhm.
like but before that, let's just talk a little bit about who you guys are, maybe as sort of nerdy collectors, and then of course you guys are bringing, as your site says, 38 years of combined experience making toys, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Could you each sort of share a little bit about that background?
Sure. Should I go or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I started off at McFarlane Toys, and I
Yeah.
came in there right after the Horsemen left.
The Horsemen.
Yeah, and it's funny if you mention their names, not individually, but as the Horsemen. It was almost equivalent of going into a schoolhouse and cursing your head off in front of the kids because it was just a no-no. I don't know.
At McFarlane.
At McFarlane,
At
yeah.
McFarlane.
And
Okay.
I was like, what is up? And then you meet the guys and they're great.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just silly
That's
stuff that
interesting.
goes on. Yeah. So it was around that time
course.
period. And over there, again, like I am at NECA, a painter. So I do all the deco, and McFarlane, I did kind of stretch out a little bit more. I did a couple of figure pose designs because they did more like action figure
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was able to do some of that, and I was doing some tempo art and some packaging art. But yeah, it was there's a lot.
Real quick, for not everybody, I know some of us are familiar with like things. When you say tempo art, you're talking about like pad printing, like the little designs that would be printed on.
Yep.
On the figures.
And so then after that, 2006, I've been with NECA ever since, and
cool.
Much better. I like it much better.
Yeah. And I'm curious, do you end up working on sort of horror things, or do you work on a bunch? Have you worked on a bunch of things at NECA?
It's a bunch of things. Of late, I've been doing a lot of horror stuff, a lot of Universal monsters,
Nice.
painting those. And what's great about NECA, and same thing with McFarlane, we're painting from head to toe. We're not relying on color injection only, and then a couple hits here and there. So thankfully, we're still keeping the artsy end of things.
Yeah.
Going on. That's also what I want to kind of bring to Häxan House as well. So I really like that. I like that style.
Yeah. That's cool. How about you, Anthony?
I started at NECA at 2011.
Okay.
And I started off doing everything by hand.
Sculpting wise by hand?
Like fabrication.
Okay, gotcha.
Mostly. I did that for about 10 years. And then I had the opportunity to learn ZBrush. Presented to me by somebody else that works at the company. How am I going to say no to that? One-on-one learning ZBrush, of course. So I started doing that, and it started crossing over into sculpting at that point, because the line kind of falls away in ZBrush because it's the same material. So whereas I used to hard stop in fabrication and pass it off to a sculptor to finish things sometimes, but not anymore. I just finish it. And that's how I learned that, I could do this.
So how many years now? I didn't catch it. How many years have you been working digitally?
About 5 years.
Okay. That's cool. Was that a hard transition for you? I've heard different sculptors talk about that transition.
The first couple of days in learning it was just such a huge information dump. I was like, how am I going to do this?
Sure.
I was like, oh my God, really like this.
Yeah.
But it eventually all came together, and it
Well,
worked
you
out.
said days. I mean,
Well,
it was it like, yeah,
it was, it's like when you first get started, it's
of
just like a
course.
whole completely different ball of wax.
Yep.
Whereas
Yep.
before, you take the piece of plastic and you cut into it.
Work it. Yep.
And now it's like, okay, now you hit this and you go there and you do this and you do that. It's like, oh my
Right.
God, it's like, but it all came together. It's
That's awesome.
and I wouldn't go back either, back to
Okay.
doing it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, we're talking about horsemen. So I got to do intern for a day, and that was one of the questions that Eric Treadaway was asking. Same thing. He was like, he was resistant.
yep.
Did it? He's like, yeah, no, I'm not going back.
Right.
And he
Yeah.
talked about even just like the pain in the hands and the dealing with the temperature of things and
Right,
how
right.
he was like, oh, can you imagine doing that dragon?
And the thing is too, like if you needed to change something, it's just so much
Right.
easier digitally. You don't
Right.
have to restart, get another lump of clay out there. You could just make adjustments on the fly or save that, put that to the side and have a duplicate and work on that and
Right.
see how that works instantaneously. It could
Also,
be much better.
if you do something, slightly undersized or oversized, you can change it like that.
Right.
Whereas you have to start over from the beginning.
Right.
Mm.
What
Yeah.
trips me out is the conversation with your factory and sort of what that used to be like versus now, right? And being able to send things back and forth. And
Mhm.
I can't imagine that must have felt super revolutionary. And here's Jesse, keep bragging about it. Hey man, I had a great time, and yes, absolutely. I don't mean it as bragging. I mean it as just like, wow, what an experience. And it was fantastic. And anyway, it is interesting. I'm not gonna just sit here and have us gossip all day, but what you shared about the bringing up the Four Horsemen at McFarland. But what's interesting to me is like, and I can't help it. So I will say that this is me filtering everything through my experience. The way you describe that reminded me of like the notion of taboo, like what we're going to talk about and your work. It's just kind of the same thing. No, you don't talk about demons. You don't bring this up. It's just funny.
Häxan House is pretty much, we want to make action figures that are like creepy, dark, and sinister. Basically the figures that we never got to see or have. And we want to have it's going to be a little off from center. It's going to be a little imperfect. It's going to be very organic. And just like those paintings and like those drawings, we're just, whatever comes out is going to come out, and we'll see how it is. And so far, so good.
Yes. Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Actually, before that, I wanted to know what kind of things you collect. Is it, well, are you collectors still, or is it, like what's that like for you?
Go ahead.
Oh gosh, me? Okay. I've been collecting since I was a little kid. I never really stopped. So it's a lot of Masters of the Universe. For a long time, it was Star Wars stuff. Kind of cooled on that though, but stuff like that.
Yeah, it's same with me. I mean, we're going back 70s, 80s. 80s toys are fantastic, and for me, it's the same stuff. I mean, everybody pretty much has the same favorite list, of figures from that time period.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's different today versus how it was in terms of just how figures are constructed. The plastic is different. I just feel like some of the stuff in the 80s, early 90s, 70s are a little more durable. There's something different about it. Maybe it's just my imagination, but it just seems like figures are, I mean, NECA figures are heavy, which is great.
Right.
But like I pick up stuff from other companies. I mean, almost like you're going to throw it through a ceiling because it's so light. You didn't expect it to be so light. And it's just something about it. It's a little bit different. I don't know.
Is that something that you think about as you all are creating your own thing? Is there like a production thing that you're shooting for in terms of that?
In a way, I mean, again, I guess it all comes down to cost and what is available nowadays. I mean, the factories themselves could have changed too, from what they used to have and it just could be what they have available, and that's why it's so different.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be when we get to that point, we'll find out.
Right.
I mean, remember GI Joes in the 80s, the thumbs would break off because it's a ABS plastic, brittle stuff. But I don't think we're going to go in that direction.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I remember, particularly with GI Joe, that was my first experience with Zap, like putting in that bazooka, snap,
boom.
and
I think everybody's Zap, and
heartbreaking.
There was another one. I forget what it was.
Oh, were there ones that seemed to be like particularly prone?
always breaking the thumbs off.
Okay, well, see, we didn't have the internet to compare notes, man. And then other folks here, like solo sitters say, need that die cast and lead paint. That's how you know you're 80 strong. Yeah, you're developing all sorts of diseases in your 40s.
Yeah, you survived.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so you're totally speaking my language. I will say before we start, because you do like the horror thing, and I will say it seems like right now, as far as even in independent toys, there is a little bit of a exploration into a lot of horror stuff. Like I feel like the last couple of years were like animals, right? I'm really big in Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, but there have been a lot of sort of anthropomorphic animals. Right now, there definitely are like Space Zombies from Mars is happening right now. From the Realm is about to sort of show up. You guys are doing this thing, and I'm like, that's kind of cool how like things seem to come in waves.
Right.
But even of those three that I just mentioned, they're like three very, very different sort of approaches to horror, right?
Right.
And so I'm looking at stuff here, everything from like, this was the kind of stuff that like that she and I guess Mephisto and Sim and like exploring Limbo was like always sort of fun growing up as a kid. I remember kind of in the 90s discovering Mignola and the Hellboy stuff, and of course the movie stuff. It is kind of neat to know that like the horror thing is still there. More recently, even stuff coming out of overseas. Now we're getting like versions of ghosts and demons that like out of China and out of Japan that like we just never got to see.
Right.
So like it's kind of cool. And of course, we were just talking about the Horsemen, like one of my, I love just the creatures, whether it's coming from the tradition of tradition of like Harryhausen or of creatures, or of course zombies. And I showed this earlier, the creature, but like it's a cool time. I'm sharing all these intentionally for our conversation, and then we get the werewolves. There are a couple werewolves these days, right? Like recently, we can go classic 70s with some Frazetta goodness and some
Frazetta,
like sort of horror properties. And
I mean, it's really there's no end to it. I mean, it's something that it's so wide open, and that's what's so great about it.
But what hasn't been done? What you guys are doing.
That's
everything that I just shared is awesome. It's got that fantasy like stuff going on. Closest maybe would be sort of what the Horsemen are doing. They're really kind of exploring it, but the sort of like real like classic painting. I don't know if classic's the right word, but here, let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about context, and then did I share this right? Add to stage. There it is. Okay. So this is just an article that I found from the Public Domain Review, an essay called Woodcuts and Witches, referencing like a lot of these old woodcuts from back in the day. This is from the 1700s, and sort of people working out, concepts of, the religion, the religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs, and the idea of demons or devils. And you mentioned the imperfections and like the rawness. It's totally there, right?
You see how the anatomy isn't quite right. The proportions aren't quite right. It's a little weird, a little odd. I love that. I think that's pretty cool. When you try to work something out to be perfect, sometimes it comes out a little stiff. It's like something a little more organic and imperfect.
And there's an unease that happens as a result of that kind of imperfection, which is kind of cool. And then of course there were like paintings and everything, like this stuff. So this is just a document, but there's something about like the grime and the like the imperfection of the type that
Yep.
I see kind of carrying over. Yes, you're nodding. Okay, cool.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm not imagining it, right? All of this stuff. Love it. And I will also say that I can't wait. I love your visual direction for like the website, and I can't wait to see the packaging too. But
the packaging is gonna have something like that on there. We want to have something
love it
on there with their bios, like a little that style kind of.
I love it. I love it. Are you all sort of visual artists as well, doing 2D type stuff? Are you working with folks?
Yeah, I mean,
John is more than I am.
Yeah, I've been before toys. I've been in illustration and graphic design and all that stuff. So I was that stuff's right there for me. So
love it. Yeah. So here's like this witch pictured feeding her familiars. So with feeding it with blood, and even like the you see the text from the reverse side kind of bleeding through.
Yep.
But just these little creatures and everything, there are things that you're putting into your that I spotted.
Yeah, and it's great too. Is like Anthony knows all the little tools and everything, and which makes it even more authentic. The little accessories and stuff that he puts in for the witches and everything. It's crazy.
Oops. Here, sorry to do that to you, Anthony.
No, that's okay.
I'll hide myself behind Jason Spiro over here. What's going on? I'll say hello to folks as they're coming in. What's up, Paul? Always great to see you. Yeah. Right. Let's see. I'll see. Look, even Snake Eyes, apparently 0 thumbs. Yeah. Ninjas, man. They think they're skilled till they lose their thumbs. Here, this is just to give you a sense. And I mentioned this last, I was on a stream, was it Tuesday with the Toylite, and people were, I brought up your stuff. And again, there's a lot of folks who are like, wow, that's cool. What is that? So here's Blake, also really excited about the line.
Thank you.
Thanos is saying, the imperfection adds to the grotesque and otherworldly properties. Otherworldly properties.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important.
Really cool. Like it's cool to hear that's a part of your process. So, you can see this stuff. I thought this one had, of course, the depictions of the crones or the witches.
There's so many, by the way, so many variants on witches. It's insane.
Yeah. So there's that. Really yep.
It's not all Wizard of Oz, that look, it's so much
more than that.
Yeah. And I love that you're going to the sort of source material. It's interesting. There was a line by one of the members of the Four Horsemen studio who handles their production, Chris Gowrich, who also works with a lot of indie. Yeah. But he's doing his sort of D13. I always mix it up. D13. Because there's but D13, which is sort of based on biblical depictions of Jesus, like historical depictions. Sorry, not biblical. Historical depictions in paintings and art, and including demons and stuff. And so I love that about his line, that he's sort of going to that source material. And so maybe perhaps the other side of the coin, you guys also kind of going back to explore the occult from original woodcuts and paintings. Yeah. This stuff, some of the stuff in illustrations and old paintings.
Yeah, I love it.
So I'm looking at these demons and I'm thinking about things that I've seen. So right away when I saw some of your demons, I was like, oh, yeah, no, these are things that I've seen elsewhere. Not in a derivative way, but in a almost like what's become kind of a universal human language of freaky stuff like this.
Yeah, freaky stuff. Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Great stuff.
So talk to me about how you end up like using this kind of stuff, inspiration, to inform a toy line. Like what was the thought process there?
When we first started out, we were pretty much talking about demons. I don't know if we were talking about vampires or witches just yet. Okay. We started off with demons, and I know when I started sculpting the body, I didn't really want to look at anything because I didn't want to
reference images.
I have it in my head, so I wanted to go off of that. Okay. And so with Anthony's help, we're like, this looks good. We're a different direction and seeing where we want to go with it. And it kind of evolved as so many different versions of what ended up being But that's what happens in a creative process. And we took a little bit from that painting, or a little bit from this drawing. You know, we don't want to like take one particular thing, because we have to, you know, the tooling, we're gonna have to repeat a lot of the parts, and that's the sad part, because there's so many like just terrific paintings out there and inspirations, and we can't do all those bodies all at once, because it's just it'd be through the roof in terms of costs.
Just wouldn't be viable to do it.
Yeah, so we have to pick the things that we like and add to it, maybe some accessories, some different loincloths, or some different kind of thing on the bodies, but keep the body himself the same. But
it's really surprising how much you can change the look of a figure with the things that you add on to a pre-existing body. And it's something that we talk about a lot, and you can completely change it. And
with color, accessories, you know, that just changes it alone. Different heads, but yeah, I mean, so that's the only downside, because this stuff, you know, witches and demons, are so many cool things to do. Yeah, you gotta keep in mind that you gotta create a tooling, and it's just pretty expensive.
Yeah, there's the practical end of it. You know, you're gonna Okay, well, it's interesting to again think about what your audience might be. Have you is that something that you have in mind? You're like, hey, we do think that there is like a large, you know, occult horror fan base audience out there that wants to see this? Or are you just like, this is something
we think that
yeah. I love it.
We just wanted to do this. This is something we just wanted to do, and
nice.
And again,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, it's something that we want to do, but we think that people will be receptive to it.
Oh, 100%. But I've just wondered, like, because right now with all the different indie companies, right? The question is like, what are we doing? Are we doing something like, because there's a tradition in action figures of superheroes, of action toys, and all that kind of thing. And there's like almost like a play pattern hinted at by the figures. But go ahead.
That's more like the modern, like I'm talking about. I mean, that's when I was talking about how things are different today versus yesterday in terms of style of figure. You see a lot of that. Yeah, it's like muscle bound, armor, swords, shields. You know, fantasy elements. I just think we just had an idea to not necessarily to stay away from that. We just had an idea of something different we wanted to do. You know, we really didn't think about anybody else. We just really went forward with whatever idea that came through to us and we wanted to see.
I love that. And that, I think honestly, that is ultimately just a really great place to start, because you're gonna pour a lot of like that work in. And you know, if for those of you who are jumping in now didn't catch, you guys are working on action figures, so it's not like you don't have the opportunity to work on a bunch of other stuff. But now this is your fun passion project and this thing that you want to put out in the world, and it's kind of cool.
And what's great is like at NECA I paint, but here I'm designing, sculpting, and painting, and Anthony's doing the same thing. You know, it's just nice to kind of stretch out a little bit and get the artistic juices flowing in a different direction.
It occurs to me that, like, you know, Dave Silva is at NECA as well, and he's got his line, of which I'm a huge fan, the Creative Beast Studio, and whether it's Beast of the Mesozoic or the Cyberzoic that's coming, like I'm enjoying some of those. Is that just a thing that sort of like, how does that work when in the context of working in the company where you guys have your own projects? Is that
Dave ended up leaving NECA because I guess it just got too big.
Oh, okay.
Good for him. But you know, Dave is a different I don't know how he does it. He's just focused zero on and man, the guy produces so much stuff in a short amount of time. I don't know how he got NECA stuff done and his own stuff. It's just absolutely insane. Me, I'm going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to, you know, and getting up at 6 is not good.
Yeah.
I don't know how he did it. And
is that just, are there a lot of folks that you work with who like, I've always been curious about this, like who sort of like maybe in the film industry, there's a lot of actors who someday want to do a film or like be a director. Are there a lot
Right.
of you who are like have budding ideas for toy lines that you want to do?
Jeff Trapp does a lot of his own stuff. Yeah.
Because it seems like now is obviously like the time as far as like the level of the where production's at, where the tools are at, right? The accessibility, but also like stuff like this where you have ways to like put your stuff out there and be known. And there's obviously folks like myself and everyone in the chat who's like responded positively, who's like,
so
bring it.
Of that. It's fantastic. We're so appreciative of everyone being so supportive. It's at times it's a little overwhelming because it's like, is it really, oh my God, this really could happen. This could really work out.
Yeah.
And it's so great to get such a response and that, hey, we're going in the right direction. And that's what's
you definitely are.
Yeah.
And like I said, you guys are doing something just super unique, I think. And so I know folks are like, just bring on the stuff. So let's talk about this stuff. And so I'm gonna pause Brian Brink here on the pressure that I've been feeling lately to buy a dragon, because that's a whole other thing. But I want to talk about some killer horror films. Oh, you know what? Actually, sorry. The name Häxan House. For folks unfamiliar, I think that, again, we've kind of established it with the paintings, but for those unfamiliar, there is an old 1922 film called Haxen, or is it? Do you pronounce the umlaut at all? Am I like missing it? Do you know?
We haven't been using it, but I mean, it's Haxen.
Okay. I mean, but this is a 1922 film, folks, for those of you that aren't familiar, and you can kind of see, even just from a like film cinephile kind of like film production standpoint, like this stuff, like how they were doing that old like machine special effects stuff. Just so cool. And you can kind of see like there's an aesthetic that I kind of see carrying through to some of the stuff. That's just
Anthony, and all the accessories that he's been working on is pretty much inspired by this movie.
Very much so.
Great.
Got it.
I saw clips of this movie as a teenager in a documentary, and I was like, what is this? And like it took me like forever to find it. It wasn't until years and years later, because I saw it like in 87 or something like that. I was like, what is this movie? And finally I got my hands on it.
Well before I did. I think I was in sometime between 94 and 98 in school, where it was shared in an art class.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then of course completely sort of forgot about it. And then, more recently when I was like, I know, where's that name? It's like, and of course, thanks to the power of the internet, folks, you can look it up.
Look it up.
And also at that URL down there, and I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the show, but and the QR code that's way over there. After the show, if you're watching this in replay, you can go there and the links will be there and you can kind of see this stuff. But it actually is it's worth seeing if you're faint of heart, or maybe you've been, you are of a particular ilk that like thinks this stuff is scary. Just warning, but in a good way. I think there you go. So like
that's the director, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Right here.
Yep.
1922. Can you imagine like what it would be to bring people together at that time and say, this is the film we're doing and check out these costumes, and it must have been fascinating.
I think in this country that would never happen.
Of course.
But other places, man, they don't care. They just go right for it. They're not.
You're right. You're right. There's an older world that they're like, whatever, we're over it. Over here, there was a little bit. So there's a lot more to this trailer. Yeah. And I'm going to skip over it. I did want to talk a little bit about like some of the touchstones that your stuff made me think about. And there's something about the old Hammer films. This is way before my time, but what I remember of Hammer films with the, like Christopher Lee stuff,
right?
Coming out of the late 70s. I was born in 76. So like this is stuff that occasionally I'd see on Family Film Festival in LA. Or we had a book, I think it was my brother's book, that was like just a bunch of old stills from it that was fascinating, vampires and werewolves and all that kind of thing. And then, of course, so these were the Hammer horror films of the 70s that, like, there's a young Christopher Lee in Taste the Blood of Dracula.
Great movie. Great.
I don't necessarily see a bunch of this in your stuff, but except later, there's one in particular. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. There's one in particular that I noticed. I was like, oh, this gave me that Hammer vibes. That said, Brick, let's just get to their stuff. HaxenHouse.com, occult themed toys. This is the website, and you break it down. And you've got like sort of different categories of like, there's gallery of some of the things. Can you give us a sense of, are you rolling things out on the website as you approach? Yeah.
Slowly getting things out. It's like, it's in development right now. So there's only a few things on it.
Yep.
But it'll continue.
I say right now, Instagram probably has the most updated information on us right now. As far as a visual.
Okay.
Concerned.
So I just wanted people to see that, because it helps at least my brain, like categories, right? So like, are these sort of the 4 categories that'll be the equivalent of your sort of wave 1, like covering demons, witches, vampires, ghosts? Are there more?
There's so many ideas, but again, in the beginning, we were just talking about demons, and now, Anthony goes ahead and made a really cool Rowan figure. And I absolutely love that figure that he did.
One?
The Rowan figure.
Oh, Rowan, right.
And so I think it's got to be, it kind of complicated things because it's, I think we need to incorporate a lot of that in there, not just demons. So we have to still talk about how we want to break this down for a series 1.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part.
Here, I just this comment from Black Phoenix. Haxen creeps me out. LOL. Is that a good thing to you to hear that response from folks?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
It worked.
Yes.
And then here's Roger F. Saying these two know their stuff.
Roger.
Yeah.
Roger. Roger works with us at NECA.
Nice. So yes, he knows more than any of us.
Yep.
Allison brought this up. Is this maybe the documentary that you're referencing, the one that was released in the US with a voiceover by William S. Burroughs in the 60s and sold as a documentary?
I believe. I know you're talking about. I know you're talking about. It's same footage, but it had a voiceover.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, so all that stuff is great. We love it.
So now, potentially 4 categories. There's more. Can you give us the big picture? What's the plan? Is there are you working towards is it a Kickstarter crowdfunding situation, or what do you all think?
I think it's going to be along those lines. Yeah, Kickstarter, crowdfunding, way to go for us as far as a path. Again, we don't know how we want to break this down in terms of. If we want to do 4 demons and 2 witches or whatever, mix it up, or just that's something we're gonna have to work out. The basic figure itself, the demon one body that you see with that we've been showing, has 15 points of articulation.
Right here. Yep.
Yeah. And again, all this stuff is not written in concrete. This is not. Sure. This is it. But right now, this is just a general idea of where we're going. And again, the male body, I guess, is like 6 inches, and that's just head to toe. We're not counting the horns. The horns, right? It's head to toe, and the female figures will probably be around 5.5 inches. Okay. And then
how did you all come up with that decision? Curious in terms of is it based on what's out there, or?
God, I don't know. Anthony might have an idea where that came from. We're just...
it's funny. We started off when we first started doing this. It was like, let's do figures, and we'll make them kind of inexpensive, and we'll have very limited articulation. And it has, as you can see, has evolved to where we are now.
Yeah,
it was going to be very simple originally.
Got it.
That's
such a blur.
Yeah.
So right now, as you were going through this, where would you say so it sounds like you're developing ideas, developing characters, and you're kind of just building up the library. Is the plan to once you're set, and by the time you're ready to go, you will have like pretty much developed those figures, like, because it seems like you're doing a lot of sort of early development pretty quickly.
The demons right now, I'd say, are pretty much set. There's a few
Okay.
witches that are pretty much set in terms of the aesthetics, and far as sculptural aesthetics. But we have it at 6 inches right now because if there's some significant demon that we want to do or a character, we may want to go up to 7 inches on that one particular character. You know what I mean? So you have you can adjust and have a room for different heights.
I see.
And but starting at 6, I think will be a cost effective for us as well, and it just still looks really good. Yeah, I like it. I think anything smaller probably wouldn't work for us. You know, He-Man size. What's He-Man? 5.5, 5? The origins,
old school, 5.5,
something like that. And considering our figures are kind of skinny and wiry, I don't know how well that would translate. So 6 inches seemed to be a pretty good place for us to start off from. A good starting off basis.
Yeah. So again, running down this stuff, it looks like, again, as you said, you're still thinking through it, and they could change, but ball jointed head, ball hinge shoulders, ball hinge elbows, ball hinge wrists, ball joint upper torso, swivel waist, and you can actually detach it here.
Yeah, so you can add a loincloth if you wanted to, or add whatever accessory to me come along.
And then ball joint hips, ball hinge knees, ball hinge ankles. And then the demon one body will also have ball hinge wings and attachable tail that can move around with ball socket joint.
Yes.
And you sort of show that here. Some of the attachment
pieces. Those body horns, you could remove those and then add the wings to that spot on the back.
Love it. Interesting. Yeah, and again, I'm it's interesting how folks think about whether it's articulation or it should have this, it should have that. But I also think there's there's a lot to be said about like knowing the sort of like the need based on the character / theme or whatever. Yeah. So
I think for our purposes, I think 15 points really does the job in terms of getting a full range of poses or whatever. Again, we're not doing ninjas or military figures where you need a double knee joint or double elbow joint. Not that we're opposed to it, and maybe that happens somewhere down the road. It really depends on what the costs end up, because we're going to have deco. That's a little bit more than what you might normally see, like something like NECA does, like that kind of thing. So we're going to have to see how everything kind of balances out and where we shake out.
Yep. Yeah, Jurassic. Jesse's saying these are crazy. I'm getting Guillermo del Toro vibes. And I'm assuming this one, didn't he haunt Egon? Perhaps. Here, let's take a look at, actually you have this as well. So referencing the sort of base scale.
Yeah.
Male and female bodies.
Get an idea,
Specialized, and then potentially specialized figures larger than 6. Do you already have some things in mind for some of your larger figures?
We do, yeah. Anthony has some ideas rolling around in his head.
Okay. So, like, there's a plan for a little sort of world of the dark.
Tons of ideas.
Got it. So, the dark is the name of the line. The Häxan House is the name of the company. Just throw that out there, because I know that sometimes people get confused by all the names. Oops.
Yeah, the dark is the name for all of our action figures that we're going to be putting out. Like, if we somewhere down the road decide to do some weird little trinkets or whatever, that won't be the dark. The dark is basically our action figure line. Very
cool. So let's take a look at some of the characters. And so again, this is your presentation. I don't know, are these almost look like cards. What was this art intended for?
God, this was pretty much just for shows, so we have something out there so people can look at it, understand what it is they're looking at and who the particular figure or character is. We're going to have the bios not looking like this, but we're going to have the bios on the packaging as well. But yeah, we just like that idea of just so you can give a background of some of these guys.
Yeah, it's great. And the again, the aesthetic is super unique. It's like there's this whole like, hyper detailed, super photorealistic way of doing things, cartoony, but this really is that sort of source material we were looking at, that like very yeah, off-putting, I'd say. Names, and
that's the whole idea.
this is yeah, no, exactly. A Dremelech, the Chancellor of Hell's Darkest Recesses. So talk to me about like the ideas, the names and everything. Where are you pulling from to kind of get to something like this?
Some of the demon names actually come from this.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, but we've kind of made them our own. We've spelled them differently, and we've kind of changed up the bio a little bit. So it's really ours. It's really like our version of these ancient things.
Yep. Yeah, some is Renaissance-ish, some before and after, and then yes, Fanigan, let's wake you up and wake for the rest of your life by taking a look at some scary stuff. So a Dremelech is an example of either something you found an actual name or reference in that book, or not, or
in
some
other
of them
places.
coming up with it.
Yeah.
And is the look at all based on, like, if it is something that's referenced in a book, are you taking the look of that, or are you just like, no, this is our unique?
In this case, this character was heavily inspired by the movie Haxen. Something that's in there.
Oh, it's in there.
Similar.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say the Alistair character and the Ukobak characters was taken from the old wood carved illustrations in terms of their heads. We can't, the bodies, again, since we have to have the same body, we can't have it different like you see in the illustrations, but we took how those two heads looked, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is made up, I would say.
Gotcha. Let's take a look over here. This one, this one is weirdly gorgeous. Alistair. So again, I see some of the things that we showed earlier in terms of like woodcuts or paintings, the gigantic eyes, the features, but to translate that to 3D, which is you did such a good job with this kind of thing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely very difficult because those drawings are really, really cool. And that, again, when I work, I don't know about Anthony, but I know when I work, I'm not working off of a sketch I have, because I find when I do that, the final piece never quite works out right. It just looks stiff. It doesn't have that feel that I had in a rough. So I save myself the aggravation and just pretty much sculpt.
Just go to it.
Scratch.
Yeah. I do the same.
Yeah, because there's people that can have a drawing and work off of that, or work off of some sort of sketch, and I just can't, because it just never works out right. It just ends up looking very stiff, and it's like, wow, this rough had such feeling and
right
really organic. Now it looks like it's overworked. So
yeah.
So with this thing, well, boom, whatever comes out, however it comes out, it comes out.
And again, it's one thing to do the sculpt, which I'm looking at everything from the horns to the ears and all the sort of detail and all the little wrinkles and everything. Fantastic. But then obviously just the sort of rendered paint and deco is
that's digital, this color.
I know. So it's totally digital, but just like how do you it's awesome to sort of see you take the Imagine thing and kind of give it texture. Like I'm looking at all the blues and the pinks and the skin and everything, and that's where I think that's where the magic of being unsettling is. Even like all the little veins of like it's clearly cartoony, but then it's got this hyper realistic detail. It's just like, oh no.
Just like those drawings. Again, they pretty much right along that area of cartoony yet realistic and off-putting. Yes, that's what I really love about that.
This guy, so cool. Habarim. I'm quickly reading through some of these bios, and it's like the hierarchy of hell is kind of fascinating right now. We got the Grand Duke, but just from a creature design level, really cool stuff. Yeah, and it's because we've seen lots of creatures, right? And yet there is so far from the 3 that we've seen, maybe that first one, of course, like screams like the devil, but the last 2 are just, I don't have toys like that. I don't
Right.
have,
And
in anything that I have.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's
Mm-hmm.
you got it right on. That's exactly where we're trying to go. That's
Very cool.
our engine.
Yeah. And I as Justin's saying, this stuff really stands out. Yeah. Now the details, really crazy. Here, Thanos Copter says, when he's done, could you give him those eyes that follow you? Here's the trick, Thanos. They don't do that. It's your figures coming to life. So, look out. Oh, here's another one. Uchobak, I guess.
Yeah, he's the one that's holding the what do you call that, Anthony? The
spoon.
The spoon.
Yeah.
Is that the name? Yes, that's the official name.
It looks like a spoon to me.
to feed familiar's blood, basically. Yeah.
He's got a really big spoon with coals in it, and they're on fire.
And that's how. Also,
so
if you look,
cool.
if you look at those old century illustrations, they show this character with that spoon and fire. So that's their inspiration.
Yeah, man, you really are mining some stuff that is just super unique. Okay, so we move a little bit away from now the demons, and we're getting into sort of the variety of things that are going on. Before we move on here, I know you're, again, still working at all the things that you could potentially do. At some point, you're going to be like, okay, we're going to do a crowdfund. Do you imagine probably starting with one type of thing first? And then moving on, or are you gonna?
I think we're going to ask a lot of questions. I think we're going to kind of get a feel from people what they would think and how we feel about it as well. Senses of it, because it's just like I said, every day this thing's growing, and I think it's kind of going, oh my God, look at what we have. It didn't hit me until we had that show in February. The I Heart Horror show, and we had everything laid out, and I think that really put in perspective, like, wow, we have a lot, and we need to kind of figure out what we're going to do with all this stuff, because all of a sudden everything kind of grew.
You mean just putting it out on a table and having it out?
You just see it like, oh my God, we have a lot of stuff here already.
It is a lot.
Yeah, we really didn't realize. So it's kind of like one of those things where, we have to figure out what we want to do in terms of what people would like to see and what we want to kind of get out there.
Can I ask how that went in terms of like reception? Because you had it out on a table. It was more of a horror themed convention. What was that like?
There wasn't really any action figure people there, so we were the only ones.
Awesome.
And at first I was a little apprehensive about doing this, and because again, but then again, you're surrounded with people who are into horror, so maybe we kind of in that community anyway. And when you have vendors come along and they're like telling us how they've been following us from the beginning and they love what we're doing, and then people that we don't know just coming in and seeing what we have, it was very overwhelming and very
like, wow.
Very positive, very, very good.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a cool position, like a really good strategic position to be in, to show off your action figures in a place where there aren't other action figure folks, and just sort of seeing what the response is. You said that there weren't other action figure sort of vendors, but did you get a sense of the people coming up to you were like, I don't collect action figures, but these are awesome, or were they action figure people?
Not too many action figure people. There were
there was a
pretty
couple.
Much was there?
Yeah, it was the Jason kid with the Jason mask on.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
There was one guy that came up to us like 3 times. I think to make sure we were still there. And and so it was like, just the reception was incredible. And I'm glad we did that show. And that's why we want to do more of that, get out there and introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
That's why we're so appreciative for you having us on as well. It's just
Absolutely. Like this
fantastic.
is my wheelhouse, man. I love
Yeah.
to just look at new things. I love to look at new and different things because I think that's kind of this era where we're in. As I said earlier,
Yep.
I feel like the tools are a lot more accessible for folks and the means of producing these things,
Yep.
as well as the means of finding your audience. So you've already done
Yeah.
that. Like you're going to these horror conventions and you're identifying people who aren't necessarily action figure buyers,
Right.
who are interested in what you're doing. And then you hit potentially like here, a group of, these are folks who do collect action figures and they're
Yep.
responding powerfully to it. So
Yeah, it's fantastic.
On that note, Blake is asking, what do your fellow sort of NECA folks at NECO think about your ideas and designs? Like, because it is so different.
Yeah, we've had positive responses from our coworkers. It's been fantastic.
So awesome. Mm-hmm.
And very encouraging. Yeah, and some of them who aren't there anymore, you know, there are other places. They're happy to see we're actually finally got out there and started doing something, because I think this has been in the works for a while in terms of just, yeah, I want to do this, you know. So it's great to everybody's been.
How many years ago would you say that was when you that you started sort of thinking about it?
God, for me, at least 5 years. I've been wanting to do something like this. And it's funny, I had the idea to do something like this, and I was like, I know Anthony's into this, and so I approached him about it and said, you know, I want to do a line of action figures that are, you know, demons and vampires and such. And then he said to me, I had the same idea, and I want to do it too. So
I had been thinking about it for a couple years before that. It had just been rolling around in my head. I was like, nobody's really directly doing this.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I would love to do this, but you know, at that point in time, it just, you know, everything fell into place.
Yeah,
cool. One day, John comes walking up to me. He's like, "Hey, I got an idea," and he tells me my idea. And I was like, I was like, "Oh my god!" So like, there we are.
And
that's awesome.
Yeah. And what's great about it is like between Anthony and myself, we haven't had to like say, no, this is going to be the visual. We just ended up doing it. And it was like, I work on something and Anthony is off work on whatever. And then we bring it together. It just all kind of gels.
Yeah.
Yeah. His approach is different than mine and mine's different than his. And yet somehow it all kind of comes together and it works.
As far as the question about your NECA peeps, here's Roger saying, we love these. Can't wait to have them in hand. So yes, there's fans in the industry, there's fans outside collectors, and there's horror fans. So
yeah, Roger's a big support. We appreciate that. Yeah.
Love it. Have you thought about timeline? Like Thanos is asking here, do you have a ballpark when you'd like to go? Or
I would right now. I want to start talking to factories this spring, and just show what we have and see where we're going. I would love to start going to the Kickstarter avenue the end of the year, but most likely, realistically, might be the very beginning of next year, depending on how the factories and all the information we can get. Because I want to have all the information before I get this thing started. I don't want to make any kind of mistake or whatever on. Oh, we didn't think of that. You know, there's always something that comes up that you think you have it covered, but you don't. You know, so
absolutely. No, I think that's super smart. And again, on the creative end and the ideas, it sounds like you know, as much as you all can do in the meantime, it's happening. You know, ideas are fantastic. Someone brought up earlier, and I just thought this was funny because I know exactly who he's talking about. Oops, where is it? It was this character reminds me of the evil guy, one hunting the little kids and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Don't know if you remember that, but that was definitely a image and movement and positioning, crouching and everything that was etched in my brain. Real quick, Justin saying thank you for doing the interview, because I think, again, people like this. I think there's a lot of us looking for something new and different, and this definitely is it. He was wondering about the larger figures, which you covered, but so you did mention it, and that's probably something that like you have to decide, right? In production wise, if it comes out earlier, comes out later. Yeah,
Anthony has a really good idea. I think and that's what's great about the 6-inch scale. We can go larger and hopefully keep everything within reason in terms of pricing. Still, if you start off at 7 inches, the next thing you're going to 8, you don't know. And there's a ton of accessories as well. And so we gotta keep all that in mind. So we're hoping at the end of the day it all works out.
Yeah, like I was holding up some of those like Chinese ghosts, and they're smaller on my shelf, but they're like demons and they're ghosts.
Yeah,
and like whatever. It's all like it's great here. And so Jesse's like, shut up already. Show us more images. So let's talk about your other characters. So we've got some vampires that you've got going on. This is Cedric Latham.
Yep.
Yeah. So are these based on anything? Are they original characters? How are you approaching your vampires?
Vampires are, except for Count Orlok, it's all made up.
We came up with the characters. Yeah. The Latham family is going to become a little bit of a thing. You're going to see other family members from the Latham clan show up later for different reasons. Yeah.
So there's a little bit of lore kind of building between the characters.
There is.
Yep. Okay. Would you say that? So if we see demons and then the vampires, they're all kind of together in a story, or
not so much the demons, but the other characters. Some of the other characters are intertwined.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
that the hat will be removable. By the way, the top hat.
Very cool.
If it looks weird, then we have to keep it on and then have a head without the hat. It depends on how everything works out. But the idea right now initially is to have the hat removed. You can remove the hat.
Very cool.
And there'll be a head that has a bloody mouth, like he just had some dinner.
Variant. Jesse, not Jesse, Blake. Now that I bring this up, I'm unsure if you were thinking this or this, but both kind of remind me of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang back in the day with the hat. Again, I don't think that's
old style. Yeah.
Yes. And I don't think that's a slight at all, because they're very unique and very original, but they bring us back. Like that, some of my favorite toys right now are new IP, like Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, or Mythic Legions, that are clearly new, but there are elements that are like that hit that sort of fun, sweet spot from some nostalgic time period in my life. Of course, Count Orlok. Why did you feel the need to do something so iconic in the midst of creating things? Like, curious about that.
It's a love of mine. It's public domain, so I wanted to do that. And it's actually the second head I ever sculpted was Orlok. I did that a long time ago.
Okay.
And I just was so into it and wanted to get that out of the way so I could focus on other things, because one of those obsessions. But he's going to be different in terms of his clothing. It won't be from the movie. This head looks like it's from the movie, but the clothing is going to be different. Again, it comes down to that, we want to have a different. I mean, so many companies, including NECA, has done the 1922 Nosferatu. So it's time to change something about him. Yeah. So you won't have that same jacket.
Okay.
So
and there's some images on your Instagram where we can take a look in a second, but I would just say, like, good choice on the portrait, the decision, the eyes and everything, both classic. And again, there's that you seem to be really tuned into the unsettling, like just those little details are really cool.
Yep.
So now we move into some of the witches.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is Ingrid Johansson. Where are you pulling things like these witches from? Are you looking at sort of witch lore and creating your own characters based on things you've seen, or?
This character came from my imagination completely.
Okay.
She is a witch who has become so proficient at black magic that it's distorted her body, and now she's part demon. That's the idea behind her.
Nice. How do you pronounce this? Grigel witch?
That's a Grigel witch is part demon, part human.
Got it.
That's part of the Haxen verse.
Got it.
lore.
Is that an IP idea of yours? Is that pulled from something else that you've
No,
seen
I came up
elsewhere?
with that. I came up
Very
with
cool.
He's
That's
crazy.
cool. Yeah, but it's it's cool to play with those kinds of ideas, right?
that. Mhm.
You know, and part of I kind of joke about, oh, this stuff is creepy and unsettling. It is 100%, but also like as sort of a grown person who was, I think, taught to fear things like this, and really that was part of the idea.
Mhm.
There was a point being a science fiction fan or a
Mhm.
genre fiction fan where something clicked and I realized, oh, these things that I fear, or maybe whatever things that I was taught to believe are just
Mhm.
as sort of fictional as Battlestar
Mhm.
Galactica or
Mhm.
Star Wars.
Mhm.
And here you are like creating lore around witches and you're like, oh yeah, that must be real. I'm like, wait a
Mhm.
second. Like someone also came up with that idea. It just
Right.
happened to be a much longer time ago.
Yeah.
So I find that fascinating. She's great. I love the horns and everything, the hair.
Yeah, we had that figure on display
This
at the
one?
show.
Yep.
Yeah, and she's riding the broom.
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, we'll take a look at those so we can see kind of the accessories.
Yeah.
This one, is it Jadis or Yadis or Hadis? What's the
It could be whatever
medicine
you
man?
want. There's really
Okay.
Jadis. Yeah, I mean it could be anything really. That's what's great about it. It's just whatever you think.
Look at that portrait. It's just so cool.
She will have another head that's her eyes are completely closed, like she's in the middle of a spell or doing some sort of
Right.
meditation. Again,
I
she
love
has a more traditional witch hat that can be removed as well.
Very cool. This was for an earlier one, but I'm pretty sure that her ex's third wife could be referred to as anyone. This reminds me of my ex's third wife when she went through her goth phase. This was probably for Latham. He does more with his brow, though. Yeah, there's all sorts of things that are coming up. I don't know when this came up, Larry, but I'm having that same sort of reaction. What is it? That one vampire looks like Russell Brand if he was an evil, sinister. I mean, what do you mean if he was? Anyways, Blake is saying these designs may be creepy. With that said, I think that creepy, dark, non-human designs are always more interesting, unique, and always get my money. There you go.
Yeah,
and this one.
It's an interesting line to do like creatures versus realistic looking people, normal looking people.
Yep.
It's a very difficult thing. It's almost like an actor who is serious trying to do comedy. It's not as easy as you think, and it's like when you have a realistic face, how can you make it creepy and or fit that style? It would be interesting enough to be an action figure. So it's a very thin line to. And I think Anthony did one with the Roland witch, which is more of a normal.
That's coming up here.
Yeah, it's like a normal looking person.
Oh, not that one.
But yet there's something has a lot of character to it, which I think that's the way to do it. If you're going to do a realistic looking person that doesn't have horns coming out of their head or spiked teeth, like this one that you have up there now, I think the approach that he did on that head is the right approach. It has a lot of character to it.
So that'll be this one.
Yes.
Oh, so cool.
And I think that's I like it. That's the way I think it should look if we're going to do something that's more, even though she doesn't, look too normal, but she is about as normal as you can get. I think that's the right approach. There's a lot of character yet in that face to make it interesting enough.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The look, again, the eyes. I don't know. Yeah, you do some really great work with the eyes to kind of communicate a vibe, emotion, like, I don't know. So that's the thing that I quickly gravitate to when I see this, whether the big open eyes or the side or whatever. It's really cool stuff. Great decision making.
There's another head. We had this figure on display as well, and it went off really well. Anthony did all the soft goods, get all the cape and everything, worked that out. And that's going to be an approach too. We're going to have a mix of soft good items on these figures as well. It's not going to just be plastic.
Yeah.
because you have to. If you want something to sit or move, or on a broomstick, you can't really have plastic there. You can't move the legs.
Right. Fannigan's leaving, but he says, I'll be catching up on the replay. Some exciting stuff. Congrats, and looking forward to seeing more. Maybe werewolves. Is that something? Does that? Yeah, maybe.
Never know.
Werewolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that's great.
That's what's so great about this genre is just it never ends, and that's why we're like, oh great, look at all we have already, and it's getting a little overwhelming. So
yeah, it's going to be both overwhelming. Yeah,
you can keep going and going and going. There's so many places to explore.
Right. Real quick, Solo Sinner, I know it's been here for a little bit, but thank you for the 25 Canadian. Just some appreciation for bringing this cool topic to the show. Interesting stuff. Definitely original concept and approach based on what's out there. Good stuff, guys. Thank you, Solo Sinner.
Thank you so
Always
much.
Appreciate the support, and he gets it. Yeah, totally. Like, it's toys can be... It's a palette. There's so many things we can cover.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to be around in this moment for action figures, because we're just getting all sorts of stuff, man. Let's talk Ghosts.
Love it. Yeah, she'll be a
This is my favorite.
Really?
This is so far one of my, I mean, it's my favorite. It really truly is my favorite, just because of I don't know, Ghosts are awesome, but the emotion in the face again. I just think it's so cool, especially the image that sort of used in the thumbnail of her kind of floating with her feet dangling.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep.
All right.
And this figure will have it will glow in the dark. It'll be slightly translucent, so you can or transparent. You can actually see through her a little bit. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
Very cool. And there's the name again, Latham Manor Ghost.
Right.
We'll take a look at her again. So this is the one in particular that screamed Hammer Films to me. Yes. Okay. Not accidental. Veda von Wolf, who is a seductive witch vampire. What would you like to say about her and the approach with her?
She's going to be, again, there's going to be other heads with her without the blood. So there would be some variance there with her, but she will again have a sculpted hood, and there might also be an unhooded head as well. But there'd be soft goods. There'll be a soft goods cape, and she's gonna be a lot of fun. I think again, to have that traditional vampire, we want to have that as well.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be a feature on the body that we want to kind of put in there. That's gonna be a little fun feature.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that. That's got to be so fun as a creator to kind of that. Yes. And of course, this vampire creature. Was this like an alt head or is this his own character?
Originally, it's funny when I worked on this head, I had an idea. I think initially when I was doing the Count Orlok head, that was going to go completely different with Orlok. I see. And then I was like, no, I want to make it look like the 22 movie. So I kind of went away from this for a while. And when I came back to it, it just kind of like, I see a bat, I see some sort of, and I just kept going with it, and I end up really liking it. And I think initially we were going to have this type of head with Orlok, if you want to put it in that body, to have this type of vampire. But I'm thinking some of the demon body is going to be used like a bare upper body, not clothed. He's going to have wings. He's going to be like he's a tree dweller. So it's going to be some interesting little nuances with this guy. And there's going to be that's what's great about this. It's just no right or wrong. And we're just going to play around and see where we end up.
That's got to be so freeing, I think, in many ways. This is why I thought that it was meant, I made that connection between the two, but I hear where you're going with it.
Yeah, it just keeps evolving, how things go. Like it would be cool to see this head with that type of normal, see what it looks like, with a coat and everything. But
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking more like also a real organic body, just like the demon body, something along those
Sure.
lines with wings, and yeah, I think that kind of belongs together.
Okay, well, since you mentioned the wings and the demon body, let's take a look at some of the stuff on Instagram now that
Yeah.
we've sort of seen the portraits and the way you're developing characters.
Yeah.
Here, this shows sort of the wings and the body that you're looking at.
Yep.
Now, give me a sense of, because there are different sort of torsos, right?
Yeah.
What at this point are you looking at, like, because you mentioned reuse, are there like a couple of different demon torsos that you're using, or how are you approaching that?
I think they're going to be the same. Again, this
Okay.
doesn't have that cut in the chest like you saw in that exploded
The
view.
torso, yeah, that's right. The ball joint torso here.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I just think it needs it only so you can get a nice range of movement, and
Sure.
and flow.
Yep.
So I think the bodies are going to be pretty much the same. We may do something different with the legs. We might have more of that, like that kind of werewolf type of leg, that way it's the anatomy is constructed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
We might have something like that, some changes like that, some different kinds of things, but you're going to see different loincloths and different accessories to the body. It helps change things a bit.
I see the digitigrade. I confirm, but like that is a word that I've learned recently because of action figures.
Yeah.
whether it's werewolves or, but yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what
There
you're
you go.
thinking of
Yep.
as an alt leg, or
Yeah,
kind of a standard leg.
No, I'm like an alternate
Gotcha.
leg.
Got it.
And so we could have it with the factory that you can take the the lower leg off or change out the legs completely if you wanted to, and
I
have
see.
something different.
Mm-hmm. Agree with
And
Thanos. The multi-faced head is cool. Again, this notion of being off kilter. It's like the jaw is coming out this way, the
yeah, it's
eyes,
all
like it's
weird.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. My brother, who's been on the channel, we've been like going back and forth on these, probably both working through our childhood demons in some ways.
Right.
But we just love where it's going because of that. Like some of your design decisions, just so cool. Look at that. The wings.
Yeah, and those wings will have they're like a hinged ball joint, so you can
at the connection.
They can go back, they can go up and down. And yeah, you can remove them to put the body horns back on if you want to have that look without the wings. And some of these will also have tails as well.
Okay. And will that sort of, there'd be like a standard attachment point potentially for them. Yeah. I'm a fan of that. I'm also a fan of plugs when they don't have them. I don't know, just throw that out there. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So that there's not like a hole.
Right.
Like, have you seen some of the companies will put the thing there?
Yeah, we've been talking about that too.
Yeah.
I've always appreciated that kind of detail where, but they're not cheap. And then here's another one of the demons.
That's the thing.
Yeah, I know. I recognize that. Alistair, again, the head alone was cool, but these bodies, and what we're looking at, these are the Paint Master prototypes that you brought to shows, right?
Yep.
So this is plastic painted.
Yeah, that's the resin printout.
Resin, yeah.
1-to-1 size. It's to size.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't point it out on the last figure, but there was the accessories of that sort of pitchfork type thing. It was cool. Like you mentioned earlier, and I do want to look at them as we go through them, but like all of these things, is this like removable from that belt kind of thing? Okay.
Yep.
And then this, like I don't see these weapons, right? So cool. And by the way, he's got a face on his in his back pocket.
His loincloth. There's also a whip too. He'll have a whip.
It's cool.
And,
do you? I know. Obviously, you were at the horror sort of convention, but I am curious. Do you get like any people who respond negatively to what you're doing, and have you gotten that yet?
Not yet.
Not
that I want to wish that upon you, but
we're bracing for it though. We're expecting it. But
I think more that we're known or get around. I think you'll have that, and it's just
Sure.
gonna happen, and that's fine. Hey, to each their own. If you like it, you like
Sure.
it. There's plenty of
Anyway.
others that really like it, so that's
Yeah.
where we go with it.
So this upper body is the same as that first demon, that
That's
this
right.
demon we just shared. The
And that's what I mean.
paint again is so different.
It makes it look different, and that's
Yep.
what we're hoping for. Make it work
God,
as
the
much
way
as we
that-
possibly can.
The way that the patches of body hair are painted too,
Mhm.
it's
Just
unsettling. I know I keep using that word, but man, well done.
thank
Here,
you.
let's take a look at what you guys. This is you guys at this show. This was in February. You're saying,
I heart horror.
and so good reception, huh?
Yeah, and it was, again, for me, I don't know about Anthony. I was very kind of just overwhelmed because I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you. And this is the first time we're showing in public, and
cool.
it could go in any direction, So the fact that it went very well, and I was like, wow. And Anthony's phone was blowing up. He was getting all sorts of comments coming in, and it was just very well received.
Oh, as you were posting.
Yeah, as we were posting. Yeah, it was just
Yep.
it worked out very, very well.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, how cool is that to have someone walk up to you in full on cosplay and be like, "These are cool."
Yeah. Yeah, she was funny.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
We're gonna see them all here. It's so great.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, and it's funny because if you aren't into action figures and you haven't been paying attention, the concept, I'm sure for most people, people don't get to see the prototypes being shown at a show, right?
Right.
And I'm assuming you had to tell them kind of what you're telling us, like, oh, we're planning on crowdfunding and all that.
Yep.
That must seem so out of this world to them, like that concept, right?
Yeah. A lot of them don't really understand what that is. So it's like trying to explain it, and they're asking about how is it going to be sold, what's going to come in a box. Like there's questions I just can't answer right now, but it's just
sure.
Everybody was really, the questions were great because they were into it.
Yeah. That's really great. Yeah, I'm sure people are like, are these going to be at stores? Do I get these at Target? Like, no, these aren't going to be at Walmart.
No, I don't think so.
But, I see. That's where these cards are. Oh, okay, cool. Love the graphics on these too. Look at that. That cool.
Yeah.
Great stuff. But take a look at that, folks. Man, these figures are just so cool.
Yeah,
and they're
like spoon.
they're very odd.
Oh, the spoon.
Yeah, the spoon.
They are.
There he is.
Yeah. Look at that. With a flame.
Yep.
And there's just coals underneath there. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you'll be able to remove that flame, I believe. So you'll have a chance to show it without the flame if you wanted to.
Yeah, man, that has to be
fun stuff.
That has to be the first giant spoon with coals and flames ever made in action. Well done.
Thank you.
That face that you said the on his loincloth color is so realistic. This is so true, right? I mean, it definitely helped Dungeons and Dragons back in the day, and a couple of Beatles records. But the little controversy can help you sell the line. I said Beatles records, but really, geez, when I was growing up,
today.
But even growing up, whether it was a hip hop record that had some controversy or a metal record or whatever,
body count.
Insane. Oh my gosh, body count. Fun fact, I got to meet Ice-T.
Wow.
And I forget the guitarist at it was a Ricky Rackman's Cat House anniversary show in the LA Palladium, Hollywood Palladium. And they were watching the show because they were about to unveil their like big metal project. And I learned about it from them.
Oh yeah.
He signed a t-shirt of mine that and then I washed it and his signature went away.
Oh no.
All good. I'm like, whatever. I guess you sign it.
What do you use, a Crayola marker?
Here, we did cover this earlier, but what do you guys collect? Is there anything actively like right now that you're buying that you've been searching over?
My goodness. You know what? I'm pretty much going back to vintage stuff
Oh, okay.
of late.
Mhm.
Yeah. But what I was collecting, again, Horseman stuff. Oh, love that.
Yeah.
And I was big into Star Wars, and not so much anymore. I just like, man, where am I gonna put all this? Like this, the black, Black Series.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I don't know. It just, you know what it is. Some things I just love horror. I think I'm focused
You're
on,
leaning in that horror direction.
yeah, sci-fi. I kind of like. I'm steering away a little bit from that. So anything horror related, I'm a sucker for anything Universal monsters or Jason and Michael Myers and anything like that. I love that stuff. And that's
Very
what's
cool.
great
Very
about
cool.
working on NECA. You get to work on
Yeah.
that.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
How about you, Anthony? Is there anything that you're currently buying that
Right now I'm collecting a lot of Realm of the Underworld from Zolo World. Do you know them?
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
They're
Did you go to
retro stuff.
ZoloCon or
I
not
did
so much?
not. I did not.
Okay.
I wanted to, but I didn't have a chance to go. But yeah, I like their stuff a lot. Their retro Master of the
Yeah,
Universe style stuff that they've got.
Mhm.
It's real cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, there's so many great things out there now. Independent
Mhm.
stuff is just fantastic.
Yeah, I agree, Thanos. It's going to be such a cool line. Look at these. They're just so cool. Look at this head right here. Classic sort of
Mhm.
Baphomet style.
Mhm.
I love to share like the history of Baphomet with folks, and they're blown away when it's kind of what I was saying earlier. No, someone just literally made that up. Like, when you think about a lot of like the things that we're scared of or whatever,
Sure.
sharing the history of Baphomet, people are like, oh, yeah, wow. Or even depictions of like the biblical, like the notion of Satan, whether it's, or Satan, like just the notion of our images of it are actually way far removed from the original ideas.
And it's also kind of confusing and fuzzy at times too.
Yes.
Some of the stories, Lucifer, Satan,
right. Are they really the same? And like, wait, what?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many different stories and everybody's born on December 25th. How many, I don't know. So there's so many stories almost based on what you're feeling in life or what you experienced. There's a story behind that started at, whether you're angry at something, there's a story for that. There is, there's always something to.
You are making my case right now. I'm a history teacher, and that's exactly like my line to students of just like anything. Walk out on the street, you see a name, a street name.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, like, there's a story to that. Do you know it? And you kids, I'm going to tell you, you guys are lucky. You've got the internet. And you can actually find out. It's just that trick of hoping you get curious.
Mm-hmm.
That said, vampires, here we go. The renders are cool. The plastic is even like more telling, I think, of where you guys are heading. Take a look at these.
Yeah.
So that's a removable hat right now?
On the prototype, it isn't, only because it's a resin. If it was in plastic, it has that give.
Right.
We wouldn't have that with this. So we just
for the hat in particular, you're referencing.
Yeah, we just have it on the head for display purposes only. Mm-hmm. But the intentions is to have the hat removed, so you get a removable hat.
I love the two different looks we can kind of see here that we didn't quite see there. The blood in the mouth definitely communicates differently than it did in the render, and these look really cool. I am so curious, like people, you're mentioning costs and everything, and sometimes people don't see the paint, but I can imagine the cost of these paint jobs and how much.
There's got to be a plan for it. Somewhere along the way, a color injection has to come into it, but washes and dry brushes and airbrushed hits are going to hopefully be a big factor to kind of give you that painterly feel to it. So we'll see how it goes. Again, I'm from McFarlane and NECA, and we paint our figures from head to toe, So I just so used to that, and I love that so much. So I'm hoping to carry that into this and have a good balance between deco and articulation.
Yep. And then here we go. These guys, I've shown this picture before. Hopefully it doesn't trigger YouTube's stupid censoring, but we've all got body parts, even horny demons.
It's insane. I mean, if you look at those if you look at those drawings, you'll see that. So it isn't like we're like, let's do this for the hell of it. It's based off of stuff. And again, for decades, action figures have come with guns and bombs and whatever. And so if boobs are something that are going to hurt somebody, then I don't know what to tell you. It's 2025.
And again, 100%. And again, at some point, it was some artist back in the day who had this image of what they wanted to communicate. Even like these body parts or whatever it was, and it was just an artist's sort of rendering. But I can't pass this Latham ghost. What is her name again? What did you?
There is no name. There is no name.
Okay.
It's the Latham Manor ghost. We don't know
the Latham Manor ghost. Yes, this is the one that I'm saying is my favorite. It's so striking, but they're all great. I think what it is too, by contrast, because you've got all this color, and then you get to the ghostly form, and she just pops from them. But it's so cool. Is that going to be like a removable accessory? Is that a special hand with it in there in position?
No, that's actually it's going to be loose, and it's also going to be a second head if you want to put it on the body, and the jaw articulates
as it should be. Well done.
So you can have her holding it, or you can have it on the body.
I love that. This is a fantastic toy. I love her, but she comes with these skulls that like beg to be put on her with the hair on it, but they don't. Why not?
Yeah, right.
Why not?
You'll get to it.
It's really cool though. Like cool. Her face, the face. Again, the paint masters or the painted prototypes communicate very differently than even the renders do, and they just look so good. I would love to see these in person someday. And then what was her name again? This one?
The
Grigel Witch, right?
Johansson,
yeah. She, again, the paint is very different than the renders, and it's so cool looking. Like her face, the markings on her.
Yeah.
This is the closed eye head.
Yep. And that it's going to be soft goods around her waist, so she can actually bend her legs to sit on the broom.
Okay.
The right way.
Look at the legs, the skin kind of. Again, no other woman action figure that I know of is going to give that skin. Like you guys are doing, like truly doing things that like no one is doing.
Yeah, I mean, hey, this is how we roll.
I love it. This is the Rowan.
Yeah, I love that figure. It's my favorite one.
The soft goods look so good. Have you is that something that you're familiar with doing, or are you working with somebody else to do the soft goods?
I did those.
Okay, very cool.
And I've never done anything like that before. I just did it because I wanted it to have it.
Wires in like capes. Is that what I'm seeing here? Okay.
Yes.
Yep. And we're gonna have the patterns. We'll be sending that over, and get that all.
You guys this is great. And then of course these guys. So do these come with a particular figure? Are they on their own standalone, or
so this idea came from the very beginning, and I think it's kind of changing a little bit. So if Anthony might have a more precise notion.
The original plan was that, I don't know if you know the action figure line Black Star from the 80s, the early 80s. Each figure.
Hold on, sorry, really quickly. It's perfect that Thanos is up, because for a while Thanos and I had sort of this conspiracy that we would go into different toy chats, especially when toy makers are there, like Super 7 in particular, and we just say, can we just keep mentioning Black Star until someone actually starts making Black Star figures?
I would love that, really.
But you were referencing the little demony looking dudes that the Black Star things. Got it.
We both like that a lot. We thought, wouldn't it be fun to package each figure with a little thing like that? You know, a little sidekick type of character. But
the head will be articulated.
Right. But we're probably
for both of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's other ones too that are in development, but again, we'll have to see how everything kind of.
I know, but when you said the head would articulate not just the owl, but also this guy would.
Yeah, and his head will be able to move. Like the body will be like those Black Star figures. Like the bodies don't really move; they're a solid.
They're just like little slugs. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like to see the head move around. I think that'd be pretty cool.
It's looking like these little characters are probably going to be in an accessory set rather than coupled with a figure each.
Okay.
And if it's doable, then we'll put it with the figure, but we'll have to see how that works out.
Right. That makes sense. And again, you're speaking Thanos' language. That's his other thing, is going around telling people, why don't you do accessory packs anymore? Why don't you do head packs anymore? So a little set of these guys, I would definitely be all about it.
With other things.
With other things. He looks really cool, and there's like a little body coming out of his belly.
Yeah, you ever see like those old paintings? They have a lot of that. For whatever reason, the head right there, you know.
Yeah, it's cool.
And his tail.
Someone just brought up the. Yeah, it's the tail. Sure, no. Larry's Geeky World is saying, I would love to see the translucent blue. Is that here? Is any of this printed in translucent and you paint it on top, or where? You mentioned that earlier as well.
It was that was printed out just a gray resin. I had to paint.
Okay.
All that, but in production, our idea is to have it in that transparent blue, glow in the dark material.
Got it. With some, like, did you say partially translucent so that you're painting and it'll be like a gradual transition, or
it might be something along those lines. It might either have it injected in clear and have paint on top of it, or have it injected in a color and then just add a heavier tone on top or whatever and have it fade away. However we plan on doing it, but have it glow in the dark.
So cool. The Rowan. I understand why she is your favorite.
Yeah, she's my favorite. Yeah.
But the accessories, this is awesome.
The necklace. Yeah.
The necklace is great. Is that meant to look like wood, I'm assuming? Sticks kind of put together, this face, and then of course the laughing face with the teeth is fantastic. Yeah, she's gonna look great. What is this? A staff? At the bottom, just like it's not like a broom or anything like that.
No, it's like a gnarled piece of wood.
Got it. Yeah, these are really great stuff, guys. This is the stuff that I've been looking at, and I can't wait to sort of see more. Is there anything else from the Instagram in particular that you think folks should take a look at?
I think pretty much you covered it all. Like everything we have there on the table is where we're at this point. What's great is like just have everyone kind of spread the word and come join us here, because we love to hear from everyone and what they would like as well. Because it's just such fun stuff to do.
Yeah. Well, the place to do that would be, again,
right now the Instagram is probably the most updated site that we have right now going on. We're going to be getting everything onto our website eventually, but right now it's just easier for us to instantly post on there when something goes on, and so it's just really quick thing for us.
And I did notice that you created a YouTube channel with like sort of a little bit of a trailer. Is that something you're thinking potentially as the thing grows, or is that like a prepping for Kickstarter thing? I just noticed.
Yep. Anthony.
What? We thought that would be a good thing to have. If we were to go live, or anything
Yeah.
like that. You know, put up videos or whatever.
Yep.
But it will definitely be come into use when we get closer to Kickstarter, because we're going to have to get the word out as much as possible. So
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I forget who it was. Somebody was doing a Kickstarter recently, an action figure thing, and they were like, they didn't have a YouTube video, and they realized, oh, I got to post a video for the thing, and like,
Yeah.
but how do I? Oh, I got to create a channel. But like, it
Yeah,
seems
yeah.
like you all have built the infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's like on it. It seemed, yeah.
Yeah, everything's in place. It just, right now isn't fully functionable or in use right
Yep.
now, but it
Yep,
will
yep.
be.
That's awesome. So we've shown a bunch of figures. There are a couple of quick questions that people left. We kind of went through a lot of them as we went through, but just a couple of quick things people are wondering about you. So broader question from Justin: what do you guys think draws a person to the horror genre, and maybe that sort of informs your design?
Man, it's so wide open.
Yeah,
I know it is. It's big.
A lot of ground. I think the horror thing is kind of an outsider kind of thing.
It is, yeah.
You know, I think it draws in people that are kind of disenfranchised a little bit. Not necessarily everybody, but just in general.
No. Yeah, even it's funny that you say that, but I think about the occult, or like, what it must have been like when those paintings were made, or even before then, or in 1922 when you decide that you want to make a film about that you must be coming from a place of like wanting to push back a little bit about what you're seeing. So
can you imagine doing those paintings back then? You probably get a death sentence or something after you.
No, 100%. Yeah. And like,
when they were doing Haxen, when they were doing that movie, a lot of people were against that. He went to, to scholars, for information, and they're like, why do you want to know about this? And he explained, I'm going to be making a movie. And there's like, no.
It's crazy.
Yeah. There's like, no.
They're like, no. I don't support that.
I love that.
Yeah.
What about in terms of just horror movies in general? What are the ones that you are like sort of inspire you, just whether it inspires the line or not? But what are the horror things that you're looking at?
Oh gosh, go ahead, John.
Oh man, it's funny for me. I mean, I just saw the most recent Nosferatu movie.
Oh yeah,
it's probably a me problem, but I'm very traditional in a way. I love the visual of that movie. I loved everything about it. I didn't care for the mustache.
I was gonna say, yeah,
and to me, it's like Vlad the Impaler. It's more Dracula, and just call the movie Dracula. So there's always something like the Halloween movies. They pretty much gave away the entire movie in the trailer, and today's thing is just, it's all about instantaneous, boom in your face, kind of not building much of a suspense, a story. Like Myers in 1978 was stalking. It didn't have to do much, didn't have to say anything. It was scary as hell. You didn't see him, you just heard him breathe, and it was great. Jaws. Well, how often did you see the shark? And so today's horror movie, everything is instantaneous, and I don't know if I really kind of into it, to be honest with you, today's stuff.
Yeah, there was that.
I'm more old school.
That's what when folks, when Justin was also asking sort of the horror genre, part of the horror genre in general, I think it is about the fun of fear in some ways. And so those filmmakers that you sort of cited, like, understood like what is scary. And so just the notion of the psychology of it.
Less is more.
And one of the folks that we hang out with online, Alan of what is it, Vine Jungle? Ooh, I'm messing up the name. It's right here, actually. Vine Jungle Figure Factory, who loves your stuff, by the way. He is a big haunts guy. Like he develops like these famous haunt, what do you call them? Like attractions, like all over the world.
Yep.
And so he's a big, like, well-known personality amongst the sort of horror things. But he was mentioning the other day about some old thing in the 90s that he was involved in. It was mentioning the scary part wasn't the actual like person coming at you. It was the sounds that they would cue, or the way they designed the floor so that you would feel their footsteps behind you. And sort of, and all of that. Like sometimes that is lost in a world where we can create whatever visual you want. that sometimes we overemphasize, like, oh, let's show you something
overused. It's no longer a tool. It's like a crutch. You know, they just over. I don't know. I just like that whole thing of like, where is he? You know, I don't see him, but I know he's around. That's scary because it's all built up in your head.
So here's a little bit more connected to the toy line. I know it's early, so no commitment. But is there like a sweet spot price point that you're looking towards? Again, no commitment, but that's got to be something that you.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be as competitive across the board as everybody else is. You know, to stay within reason. I'm not looking to make a $50, $60 action figure.
Okay.
I want something that's what is average today. Yeah, I know it's different because you have a lot of companies who are mass market, and it's the whole everything is laid out differently. But yeah, if it gets too crazy, I don't think it's worth it. You know, we have to make it somehow where it's affordable for everybody and doable. You know, because otherwise you're not going to be around very long.
Yeah.
You know, so
have you been able to talk to, like, what, as people were kind of coming up to the shelf that weren't action figure people, were they asking about prices? Did you know?
No, not really. They were just asking, what the hell is this? And they go, wow, these are action figures? Oh, that's great. And you know, they all get into it after that. But yeah, nobody's really talking about prices.
I'd be curious to ask, like, people who don't buy these things to just be like, well, I'm curious what, what
funny.
would you pay for these things? What would you expect to pay for these things?
I think if you're in this industry or you're a collector, I think, you know, anything like, what is it, $40, $45, $30, you know, whatever, I think you're like, oh, that's normal. But somebody outside of that might go, $40 or $45 for a figure? Are you insane? And you're going to have that because you're going to have people who are in the general public seeing this and they may be like, what? So you know, again, we'll have to see. It's a 6-inch figure. I think we want to keep it relatively doable for everybody as much as we possibly can. So I don't know, to be honest with you.
That's fair.
I think 50 would be a little high for us. The NECA price point, I'm used to that because I'm there every day. You know, I have to see. Again, we're not going to be making as much, you know, like in terms of the amount. So that might play into how that figure pricing averages out too.
Right. Well, to sort of sum up, folks, you heard about, like, you saw the work is beautiful. It's definitely unique. It's something that is very different than what's available right now. I think there is something happening at the moment where there is like this sort of like looking back at fear and horror, which is awesome. But what you're doing is very, very unique. I was really a big supporter. I'm a supporter of a lot of these toys. I'm a fan of toys. And so recently there were things like the Cursed Dead, which came up, which I love. But again, between what they're doing and what you guys are doing, they're different, but they could work together.
Right.
And that's how I collect.
What scale are they in? Do you know?
They're roughly the size of kind of a Legions. They're bigger, they're taller, and they have like taller, gangly. If you're not familiar, they're taller, gangly bodies. Like their buck it's essentially one buck, really tall, really thin, and so they're probably
they're thin in the waist, but big up top and
not big and not so big and bulky. They're not like big muscular things. Yeah, I'll share some stuff after, but really great guys. Phil Ramirez, David Vonner sort of helping them with production, and Adam Van Winkler, who's over at Gentle Giant Studios. But again, very different, cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get them. Like totally back the Kickstarter, and they did their thing. But again, we're just in the time period where, like, if you're a fan of a particular thing, maybe just wait, and there's potentially some toys out there. Yeah. And I'm just intrigued by yours, especially because it really is something that is different. The inspiration, the source material. And I have no doubt, clearly, even from the folks that are here, who I know, a lot of these folks, this is not like something that I would have assumed. They would have been like, oh, that's cool.
Right.
But but it is cool. So,
Yeah, that's
and they're
awesome.
like, you know,
Thank
so
Fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah,
man, you're definitely onto something.
Yeah. I hope so. Hope
So,
so.
Yeah, I
you
hope
know,
so.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you know, and I just want to again say thank you for this as well. And you know, I've been catching previous shows of yours, and it's great that there's someone out there who's communicating and talking about the hobby and the industry, and I think it's so important to keep
Thanks,
it
man.
going. Yeah, it's really, really important to keep it going. There's so many
Yeah.
things that are gone, you know, that used to be really popular, and keeping action figures alive and well, it's so important for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, absolutely. I'm having a blast. And the fact that there is so much cool things to talk about. Honestly, if
Mhm.
there wasn't so many great creative new folks coming in with ideas, I personally, I know there's other folks, but for
Mhm.
me, I can only talk. I love Marvel Comics, collected them,
Mhm.
love DC, but there's only so much that I could spend my time, I think, talking about. I'm a big Star Wars fan, same,
Yeah,
but like
yeah,
I've been doing this show and rarely talk about those things, which I love,
yeah.
which is, I think, a good thing. And that's what I want to remind
Mhm.
folks. New IP, new ideas,
Mhm.
new inspiration for action figures is what's going to really like keep this game going
Yep.
and progressing the way it
Yep.
has, like the level of paint, the level of articulation, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So touche.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you to you guys, man.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah. So
Really
clearly
appreciate it.
folks are appreciating it, you know. So anyway, thank you all. You just keep looking out at the Instagram for the
Yeah.
information.
If
There's
if anybody has any questions that you want to ask us, go right ahead. Send
Yeah.
us, you know, drop us a note on Instagram, whatever, and we love to hear from you and answer anything we, you know, maybe we're missing out here. You know, who knows?
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, come back, you know, like this isn't the one-time deal. Like folks
Yep.
are going to want to know as things develop. People want to
Yep.
hear more. People want to, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to it. And I know
We
for a
appreciate it.
fact, I know this is I'm assuming the first, right? You were saying that you've been able to come on and talk about on like
Yeah.
a stream like
This
this.
is the first time. Yeah.
I guarantee you there's a bunch of other people who want to talk with you, especially as you move through the campaign. So yep.
We love to hear from
I'm excited.
everybody.
Yeah, we'd be happy to.
Excited.
Yeah. Thank you so much
Awesome.
Yeah,
again.
thank you.
Yep. All right, folks. Thank you so much. Here, this is where before I play the music, I'm trying to think. I will actually be down in Southern California next week with the Spirit Toys folks at WonderCon, selling some Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. So if you're going to be in that area, Anaheim, California, come by, say hello. It'd be awesome to see folks. That means I will not be doing a live show as far as I know. I don't know what the internet situation is going to be. So just keep an eye out for that. Keep subscribe to the channel, and you'll kind of see my community posts about where we're at with that.
That's good.
But yeah. And then after that, there's a couple things coming down the pike. When I come back, I think we'll be hanging out with the Collecting Brothers folks. So check that out. John, Anthony, thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Häxan House, The Dark. Can't wait to see it. So hang out for a second and we'll close out, but here's some music. Yeah. All right, folks. I'm pretty sure my voice gets cut off, but that's okay. And I'm supposed to press a button. I do this every time. There you go. Woo!
Oh,
all right.
Bye, folks.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, boy.